Hello, welcome to a short video highlighting a feature I missed out when doing my Savage Worlds 3.4 demo. This video has been created using a newer build 14 of the Savage Worlds rule set, and it shows what I think is a very useful feature. As you can see, Mr. Demo has been equipped with a couple of weapons, some brass knuckles and a long sword. Currently, Mr. Demo has a strength of 6. He's just completed an adventure, and the GM has awarded another 2 XP. This of course takes him up to 5, so he's about to buy his first advance. The player decides that Mr. Demo's strength should be increased to a D8. So we'll increase it to a D8. This of course changes the amount of damage a melee weapon does. To update character's weapon damage, all you need to do is middle click on the dice and the damage is recalculated. I just bought a Microsoft Touch mouse and it doesn't have a middle mouse button, so what would I do then? Fortunately, the rule set does include this. Instead, all you will do is your right mouse button on the dice, you'll then select Edit, and then you'll select Update. And as you can see, the dice have updated correctly. Now later in the session, Mr. Demo's hit by a raised reduced trait roll, and unfortunately that means his strength's going to drop down to D4. So all the player would do is drop his strength down to D4, and again he can just middle mouse button or right mouse button, edit, and update the damage, and the damage will automatically drop down. The only thing I would mention is, technically speaking, of course, a longsword would not actually do D4 plus D8 damage. It would in fact do 2D4 damage due to his reduced strength. The only way you can get around that is if you middle mouse button, edit the dice, clear the dice, and then drop on 2 4-sided dice. Now later on, obviously when the reduced trait power wears off, the character's strength will go back up to D8, and you can just middle mouse button on both the dice and they recalculate. Now I know it looks like the longsword here is correctly calculated the strength damage, but that unfortunately is just a coincidence. In fact, what it is if we go back to here, you can see that the damage is strength plus die 8. So obviously because I've middle mouse buttoned on there, it's automatically updated the stat to what's written in here. So it doesn't actually follow that the second dice will move up and down to match the strength. Now I've added in what I've decided to call the unusual weapon, for reasons that will become quite clear. But first things first, if we roll for the damage, as you can see what in fact it's doing here, it's rolling a 4-sided dice, a 12-sided dice, a 6-sided dice, and adding 5 to the total. The reason it's quite an unusual weapon is if we actually look at the weapon details, you can see that the damage it's actually doing is it's calculating the smarts. Or smart, it's not but you don't put the S on the end in this damage table here, which is a die 4. Then there's the die 12, which is obviously set. Then we have the plus 5, and then it's adding in the agility, which is a die 6. Now the reason I've pasted it like this, as you can see here, smarts, although it's missing the tailing S at the moment, that might be resolved before release, has been typed out in full. As you can see there, agility hasn't. This is to show that you don't need to put it in full. So what we'll do is we'll actually, now we can also add in, let's add in vigor. I'll type vigor completely, and we'll close that. We will now just middle mouse button on the unusual weapon. As you can see now, it's added a second die 6 because this is what matches the vigor. So now if we increase the smarts up to a D12, actually I've gone 2 up, that's quite good because it will show how clever this is. So when we do the update now, you can see that the plus 5 has gone up to a plus 7 because it's taking that from the smarts, and now when you roll the damage, it's doing 2 die 12 and 2 die 6 and a plus 7. So as you can see there, it's quite a useful feature, especially if there is any settings out there where weapon damage isn't necessarily based off strength. It is also worth mentioning on the mini sheet that if we bring the attacks up, we won't worry too much about the unusual weapons, we'll leave it off the mini sheet. If we decrease the strength, obviously it decreases here, but you can't use at this moment the mini sheet weapons to recalculate the strength. You have to do it on the main sheet. it will automatically update on the mini sheet. But if you are changing a character's strength, then you have to do it on the main character sheet. It won't do it on the mini sheet. But barring the limitation shown there, I think you'll agree that this is a very useful feature to have in Fantasy Grounds 2. Thank you very much for watching. I hope to show any more updates as they become available. Thank you. Bye.